Starting over.
Uh-huh.
Oh, all the way from the beginning.
All the way from the beginning.
All the way from the top.
All the way from the top.
Welcome to Getting to Market, where your job is real, but the role is negotiable. See, it only takes me 2 tries.
Yep.
They call me 9 takes Nate, and it sometimes only takes me 2. Where your job is real, but the role is negotiable. This is kind of a podcast about folks in the product marketing, product management space, but sometimes we are fortunate enough to have a guest who can shed some light with some level of expertise that we do not have on things that we are not familiar with, which is always super exciting. So we are joined today by a friend of John's who I am just meeting for the first time, Jeni Asaba. Welcome, Jeni. How are you?
I am doing great. It is awesome to see John, always. Very nice to meet you, Nate. I'm happy to be here and see what unfolds over this conversation.
Thank you for joining us. And so talk to us a little bit about what you do where you are now.
Yeah, so I oversee community at Jamf, which means ultimately I am responsible for connecting the world's community of Apple enthusiasts together. We have a large online platform as well as an advocacy program and a number of other community programs that my team oversees at Jamf. But that's the day in, day out is how can I make the lives easier and the jobs easier of those who work in the Apple space. And it's always a challenge and it's always really exciting.
Now, if I had to guess, John, how you got to Jamf, it would be that you were looking for something to spread on your toast and you spelled it wrong.
Yep.
And somehow you ended up at that website.
I got to Jamf because I needed a job, and Jamf was local to where I was, and I knew a lot of the people. How did you get to Jamf? Like, what was your path into the business?
I was looking for a new job because I wasn't thrilled with my current job. Mm-hmm. And unlike what I feel like the majority of the population at Jamf at the time, they all knew either Apple or somebody there. I didn't know anybody. And like you, Nate, I was like, what the heck is Jamf? But at the time I was a copywriter and they happened to need a writer, and I had experience in healthcare, and they needed somebody in healthcare. It was a new market for us at the time. So they liked me enough to bring me in, and it's been nearly 10 years since then.
That's funny. I can't remember the number when I left. How many people are using this site today? Like, how large is this community?
Publicly, I would say 150,000.
Wow.
That's a part of why we wanted to talk with you today, and just kind of get your view, hear how it's changed, that sort of thing. But a part of what product is, it's not just the core software that the customers are buying day in and day out. This is like a Jeffrey Moore crossing the chasm type thing. Every interaction they have, not just with the company, but with each other, is the product. How much of that is driving what you're doing? Like, is that still true? Just kind of when people buy Jamf, their whole product experience is the community?
I mean, that's what we always hope for. That's the goal of my team, is to help our customers feel as connected as possible. And if they ever thought about leaving, the thing that would draw them back in is the community, because they're not going to find that anywhere else. And that's just not me saying it. It's our customers saying, I can't go over there because they don't have this.
Oh, right.
And that's special, right?
Yeah.
So that's what we always work towards.
I'm always curious, like, how some of these things start. There's always like a business imperative, I feel like, to creating a community, but was any element of it to like kind of serve a need internally for folks to get better at sort of how you guys were using it internally?
Maybe a little bit, but more so it really started, Jamf Nation, the community really started out of that connection nugget or seed, if you will, where we actually started with a listserv. So we had an email that was just growing. Names kept growing. And very early on, John, in your early days, before when I even started, a couple of people said, connecting this many people on a growing email distribution list is probably not the most effective way to have our customers chat with each other and brainstorm and grow.
I think it was the only avenue for that conversation. Like, this time frame was like 04 maybe. And so, it was shortly after Jamf started that the listserv started, and there just wasn't anything else. That kind of genesis of the product being part of the product, like of Jamf Nation being part of the product was there from the get-go. Yeah. When the change happened and when getting to the site, like, how did you start building the community itself? And almost like, how did you get over the tipping point of a number of users engaging with one another? If someone's listening and wondering, how do I get a community going? How do they solve that initial user challenge?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and it's a little different now than it was then. So it really is a kind of case by case basis. It all seeds back to the desire to connect with each other. So that's how Jamf Nation started. It continued to grow and grow and grow. It was really a support forum for folks. They had any question about Apple, and it served as a support community for a number of years. We actually built it all in-house with our own team of engineers. And then that pivoted to gets to a point like anything does where it's big enough that you're like, oh, maybe we should let the professionals handle this who actually build community platforms. So that was my first job, was moving off of our internal build to a community platform. And then we just this last July shifted to a new community platform. And that really talks about the evolution of how a community changes. As it grows, one way to have a community fail, so kind of the opposite of what you asked me about, John, is to not pay attention to what it needs and just keep doing what has been done because it's been successful. You do that, it'll fail. If you pay attention to your community and you pivot with the humans in it, it will continue to succeed, which is a huge challenge, but that's what we always look to do.
Back when I did undergrad, like the university like laptop was a ThinkPad, and almost nobody had, like, there were a few people I remember that had like Macs and MacBooks, but by and large it was like ThinkPads and IBMs. I think some people had Dells, and that like shift, because I went to when I did. Yeah, well, when I went to grad school, I remember walking into the room. Everybody's got their laptops out. They're all MacBooks. And, like, that change happened in, like, 5 years or something like that. But there was probably a period where, like, that adoption to those folks who were trying to manage, like, larger deployments of MacBooks and stuff, they probably felt like it was the Wild West, like, where they didn't have the tools. And so some of what maybe drove them to that community was, like, this organic happening of MacBooks becoming more popular with like students and professionals, and it was sort of the perfect storm that got created with Jamf having their solution that was available and folks trying to find those solutions. Is some of that just kind of the organic timeline of Apple growing with popularity in terms of their MacBooks and who was using them?
I do think that this is maybe the optimistic side of me, but there's always a community of people that you can engage and find that. So there's an element of what you're saying, Nate, of like, well, you just got lucky, like you just kind of rode the wave. And there's certainly an element of that, but it's not all of it, where I think there is a community of people that would find value in connecting and engaging and talking with one another. There's a niche, there's a subset, there's a group that can't talk today that wants to talk and wants to show off what they learned, what they did, what they accomplished, and that sort of thing.
Where Jamf Nation is now in the community, it would be hard for a competitor to kind of stand up a new community. It would be competitive, right? Like,
yeah.
there's an element to the timing and competition, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, we have the history, and we have hundreds of thousands of pieces of content on our community that you can't create overnight because they're user generated. There's something behind that. Yeah. But I wanted to touch on something you said too, John, which is really the human aspect and the connection aspect. That when it comes to starting a community, and people ask me a lot, how do I get started? I say, do you have customers? Yeah, we have customers. Well, then you have a community. You're just not, you're not connecting them yet. You just aren't organizing them. And people want, now more than ever, and we're actually starting to see trends with AI and everything that is changing with technology. The people are striving for more human interaction because they feel like it's being stripped away in different places. They feel like they're in their own silos, and they just want humanity around them. They want to connect with like-minded people. I am seeing that more and more and more. And that's where, when I was talking about earlier, community has to shift with the customer base, with your community base. This is one of those moments. If people are going out and creating communities thinking, I'm going to have a support forum and that's it, it's not going to be successful. It's just not. That's not the community of the future. You have to connect on deeper, more diversified levels than that.
What aspects of a community, and maybe this is like as you're leading your team, it's not just a support forum, that's the negative. What are the positive things? You're like, this community, you have to have this, and this, or you're wasting your time. Maybe you wouldn't say it that way, but what are those items?
Well, it kind of goes to the question of what do you hire for, is what I've been asked before. Like, when you're hiring a community manager, what qualities do you look for? Like, number one, I always look for soft skills above anything else because I can train the software. That's not hard. but I can't train somebody to be empathetic. I can't train them to be super creative. I can't train them to want to care about other people. Like, those are harder things. You can try to infuse it and ignite a little bit of fire in people's bellies to care about others, but you kind of have it or you don't. Those are the things that I look for, because at the end of the day, what we are doing is we are trying to make not the organizations, but the individuals who work for those organizations, help them achieve more success. And that looks different to everybody. So you have to like pay attention and listen to the community members and watch how they're engaging. If you have an online platform, how are they engaging with it? Where are they going? What are they talking about? And then pay attention to how those change. Like I said, you can't just rest on your laurels at any given point in time. This worked last year, so it's going to work this year. That's not true. These are humans. You know, human behavior changes constantly. So you have to pay attention. You have to ask. You have to show up as a person. That's a whole nother topic.
When you say show up, do you mean you have to be there in person? Like you have to physically get together with the group?
I'm going to tell you one of the worst pieces of advice. Actually, it wasn't even advice. It was something that a previous manager told me that to this day I am shocked that they said. And they said, you need to take yourself out of the community and your team needs to come out of the community. As a community manager, perfect example, we would send surprise and delight gifts. Maybe somebody had a new baby and we would secretly find out what the baby's name is. We'd put their name on a onesie. We'd send them a little package. We'd write a little card and we'd sign it and say it was from Jeni and team members' names. And I was told, you take off your names and you write the community team. That is one of the worst things you can do if you are running community, because people do not connect to a brand. They connect to the humans who work for that company. Wow. So you need to be a human within it, and that needs to function in different ways. Like, yes, physically show up where you can at user conferences, at meetups, at what have you, where your customers are. Yes, you want to show up. But you show up virtually, you show up in videos, you show up in your own commentary, you let them know who you are. My customers know how many kids I have, they know their ages, they've seen them before, they know that I drink tea all day long in my favorite Deneen pottery mug, go Minnesota. They know a lot about me because that's how humans make connections. They don't make it through a community team. Terrible advice. So don't do that, be a human, and then people will start to connect with you.
To what extent does the community have outlets that are completely unrelated to like the main subject matter?
Ooh, I like that. It depends. It depends on what part of the community you're talking about. So I built and launched Jamf Heroes back in 2007. That program has been growing. That's where, when you talk about like who's talking about their kids, that's in the Heroes program. Who's sharing pictures of their dogs? Who's sharing, hey, I'm going to be at this user conference, who wants to meet up ahead of time or stick around afterwards? Those conversations are happening. They happen amongst the groups that want them. So again, like providing those options. Same thing at our user groups. We have both virtual and in-person user groups. And people go, some of them only talk strict Apple. Other ones, they go and they talk about life. Right? Because that we're all human. We're not just doing our job and using the software. So it depends on where, but a successful community creates spaces where that can happen so people can engage the way they want to.
I'm curious, if I'm an Apple and I'm looking at this community that's gotten built, that's all about like my stuff, but for another company that's kind of helping manage it, I probably want a piece of that pie. Like, how do you sort of navigate whatever they might want that relationship to be with the group you've built?
Yeah, the short answer is of course. Like, do people want to capitalize on the Jamf Nation community? Of course they do. Of course. It is the most connected community in Apple device management. So yeah, they do. And we don't gate Jamf Nation. There are a number of community sites that put their stuff behind locked doors. You have to, enter all your stuff to get the thing. We don't do that because, again, we want the community to be as successful as possible.
How long has John been banned, and what did he get banned for?
John can go to Jamf Nation right now if he wanted to.
I did look the other day. My account still works. So there's like an element of, you have to prove that what you're doing is helpful for the business. Like you might say, like, are we a cost center? Are we actually adding? I've had to bite my tongue a little bit answering questions because I still care a lot about this idea, and obviously like spent a lot of time in that product, so care a lot about the product too. But
Yeah.
when people come to you and almost like justify your existence type of thing, do you have KPIs? Do you have metrics that you're looking at?
Yeah, there's a couple different answers to that too. Because if you're talking general community, what are key metrics people look at? It depends on the leader. Like honestly, there are some communities that only measure what their support deflection rate is. And they're like, well, our community is helping with support deflection this much, and that equates to this amount of dollars, which is a lot. Like your community is solving a ton of questions before they ever get to your support team. Right now, one thing that we prove out is the very real thing that any community can prove out if they have something that's been established for even a short period of time, which is if you have folks in community, they are going to be happier customers. And the way you can measure that is through a CSAT score, right? Through an NPS score. You can look at their renewal rates. They're typically higher. They're typically faster. You can look at things like what are the extended opportunities that they are doing with the company. So if I have somebody in Jamf Nation, or even more so in an advocacy program within Heroes that's exponentially higher, are they helping the community through speaking at your events, through writing online reviews, through doing reference calls, which generate millions of dollars every year in new business? All of those things are things you can look at. Some are easier to prove out from an ROI standpoint, like a reference call versus, speaking at an event. Like these are very real dollars that marketing teams can equate to. And then you can showcase what you have done from the community to say, well, this is what our spend is, and guess what, it's a lot lower.
I wonder how would you, like, if a community's been around for a long time, like support deflection, as you were talking about that, I was like, how would you measure that if the community's been around for a long time? Because you don't really have necessarily like an apples to apples comparison for companies that have been participating in the community maybe the entire time. How do you get like clean sort of A/B like measurement against folks that are like participating and not participating in support deflection?
One thing you can do there, and I did this recently, was take one customer in your advocacy program and you take a look at them and you track their journey with your organization. So I did this. One customer joined my program, Jamf Heroes, at the very beginning. He's been with us now for 8 years. And he started at XYZ role at his organization. He is now at XYZ role, which is much higher because he's climbed the ladder over that time. When he started, they had Jamf in one department. Now they have Jamf across their entire organization because he convinced them to, instead of going with a competitor, to go with Jamf. So their deal size is that much bigger. This person has also completed our certification courses, which bring a ton of value and dollars, revenue into Jamf. And then because he was so successful with his certification courses, he has coached others and given them the confidence to go out and pay for those certification courses.
Oh, wow.
He has also spoken at our user conference. He now leads a user group, which meets once a quarter at minimum. So, I mean, that's one individual, and you can show the spider web of impact that he has had. That's what the power of a customer advocacy program, because they feel that value and they feel like they're an extension of your brand.
Partly because I'm an idiot. Differentiate community from an advocacy program, and then just kind of what should someone start with? Should you start an advocacy program from a community, and just kind of like, hey, if people are wanting to start, differentiate those two, and how do people start?
Yeah, well, like I already said, if you have customers, you have a community. You just need to connect them to each other. And if you have a community, it is more than likely that you have advocates. So the easiest way to start is to get your customers talking to each other. That's it. Because like I said, you have customers, you have a community, you get them talking to each other. It is not fancy. It doesn't need to be hard. Everybody has Zoom or some sort of platform where they can connect customers. You jump on a call once a month and you talk about what's going on at the organization, what's going on in their personal lives. And again, bringing in the human, saying, what have you celebrated recently? It could be that they had a kid graduate college. Nothing to do with work at all. Like, let's celebrate the human. People feel emotions when they're talking about something that they're proud of or excited about. And that's what you need to infuse in community, is like raw human emotion. talk about that. You talk about any problems or questions that they have, like with your software, with your organization, and then they start to learn and grow together.
We end every podcast just in the idea of like kind of being curious, lessons learned, stuff that we have learned. So Nate, we can start with you. What have you learned this week?
My lesson learned is, do you know, John, when AOL stopped doing dial-up service?
No, but this feels like a trick question, so it's more recent than I would have expected, is my guess.
September 30th.
It's like 3 weeks ago?
Yeah.
Holy cow. How many users did they have to... Now I want to know the end-of-life messaging. Like, how many people do they have to say, hey, it's 2025?
I don't know how many users they had on dial-up. They have a decent customer base because they've still got folks who both use technical support and they have some identity theft services, which, wow, if I was getting like an AOL identity theft thing, I'd for sure think I was like hacked or something.
That's a patient hacker. They're waiting for dial-up speeds to get after them.
But apparently there are like 163, so this is probably not just AOL census data, 163,000 users, mostly in rural or remote areas, that don't have broadband internet access, and so they use dial-up. So it's like, a decent, kind of a surprising number, I guess, because it's still, But yeah, AOL. I mean, there's still people that up until September 30th were hearing the modem sounds.
That's weird to think about. Like, so we were talking about home phones not too long ago on the podcast, and how we just got a home phone for our kids, and we did that by way of just adding a phone to our phone plan. We called the dial, like we called, the local ISP and asked how much it would be. It was $100 a month just for a phone, like a home phone. And so then, like, you think about, like, then adding a phone line to have one through our cell phone was $10. So not only were 163,000 people still using it, but they were paying maybe 10x the price of what they could have to have home speed, like home internet, or home phone rather, just for habit. I don't even know. That's wild.
I am curious, like, how many people, like one, how much did the UI change over time? Like, did that just stop in like 2001 and then it just kind of looks largely the same? But then two, are there people that like up until September 30th would watch like You've Got Mail and be like, this is so real. Like, this looks like, look how useful the mail feature is.
I love that movie.
Jenny, did that give you enough time to think about something you learned?
I learned something really stupid. I'm glad my kids aren't here because that's a word we're not allowed to use in this house. But they've been saying 6-7.
Yep.
You've heard kids say this, the 6-7 thing. And I asked my older one, I was like, what does that mean? And he's like, oh, I don't know. So finally, I just like looked it up. I'm like, what does this dumb thing mean? And it apparently means nothing. That's what I learned. The 6-7 really has no origin. It means nothing. It's just something that kids say to laugh and make their teachers very angry.
It seems like it's working.
Oh, for sure. It's super annoying. But
I was so yeah, my oldest also came home like wondering, she wasn't using it. She was just wondering what people were meaning by it, like if it had some hidden meaning. But I was trying to think back if we had anything like that when I was little, like that didn't mean anything except to us. I don't think we did. We had slap bracelets, which were super cool. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
That's true.
Still super cool.
Jenny's now like, I'm much younger than these two idiots.
I remember having a fake eraser in like second grade that you would write like a little note and you'd stick it in the eraser and then you'd like pass it. You pass it to. Oh, can I use an
Did you
eraser?
go to spy school and not like a normal elementary school?
That's how we passed notes back in the... I don't even know if kids still pass notes.
Well, Jenny, really glad you're here. Thank you for coming. Thank you for sharing. Nate, you said follow up. For anyone listening, if you want to follow up, if you want to have more conversations, let us know on Substack. You can find us on Substack. We do this every week, every Tuesday. New episodes get to market, get released on YouTube as well. Jenny, always great to see you. Super glad we had a chance. I do feel like we need to follow up because there's a lot of stuff you said. I love the idea of like, you already have your community, you already have your advocacy program, and you're making it too hard when you think about what do we need to do to start. You just go. Start a Discord server, start chatting with folks, tell them, be yourself, let them know. You're obviously excellent at it. So thanks for sharing. Thanks for spending the time.
Thanks,
Nate,
Jenny.
As always.
Bye.
Thank you.
Good to see you, buddy.